When bad cops abuse their power, it erodes the public's trust in the entire police force. Thankfully, not all cops adhere to the Brotherhood hidden rules that says cops must not arrest cops. By taking swift action against corrupt officers, good cops show that no one is above the law. Here are 6 cases where good cops stood up to bad cops and arrested them. Every day we hear cases of people being arrested for DUIs or accidents and deaths being caused by drunk driving. However, what happens when it's the law enforcement officers that are actually flouting the law? Lieutenant Brian Philpak was arrested for drunk driving in northern Michigan. But guess what happens when he gets pulled over?
What would you like me to do?
Just let me go.
I can't. I've got multiple 911 calls about a reckless driver. Plate and all matches. You're a lieutenant. You know how this works.
Instead of admitting his mistakes, Philpak tries to get the cop to release him just because they are both cops. Thankfully, this is the cop's response.
I don't know.
I know this career. I know what you go through every day.
No, just let me go over.
Why do you think I want to arrest a cop? We're not above the law.
Guys, come on.
There's no guys come on about it.
In the end, Philpak gets arrested even though he unsuccessfully tried to use the old "a cop to a cop" to get himself released. And shout out to the good cop for putting his duty ahead of everything. But Lieutenant Brian Philpak is nothing compared to this next cop.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Just
Stand by. Stand by. Stand by. We got some of those. You can be removing your gun belt. Okay.
When people face domestic violence, everyone says call 911, report to the police. But what do you do when the person dishing out the violence to you is a cop? This cop was beating his girlfriend consistently, even though he continued to show up to work like a good law enforcement officer, when in reality, he was a beast. Can you imagine being brutalized by someone who was supposed to protect you, who is in fact under oath to protect the community? Thankfully, he eventually gets arrested at work, and his uniform is stripped away from him. Apart from being suspended at work, the good cops go further to arrest the terrible cop. I hope he gets a befitting jail sentence and faces the tune of his own music. After all, he has probably arrested others for the same crime he was guilty of.
I told Mr. Knoll, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences.
In popular sitcoms, the bad guy is always, you guessed it, the sheriff, and it becomes reality in this case. Jamie Knoll was the sheriff of Indiana County, and by extension, the one who was supposed to watch over the people under his jurisdiction and not allow his men to exploit them, but rather to protect them. However, like many others who have been in his position, Knoll allowed his position to bring out the worst in him and turn him into a thief. By virtue of his position, Knoll stole large amounts of money, faked employment in order to get the salaries of the fake cops, and used it to sponsor extravagant lifestyles for himself, his wife, and their children. Usually, Jamie Knoll should have gotten away with it, but some of his men stood up to him and arrested him, not minding that he's their boss. Standing up to someone above you takes a great deal of courage, and it's great that we still have cops who are willing to take that risk. But this cop only stole lots of money. What about cops who consciously endanger the lives of the people they were meant to protect?
You know why I pulled you over?
No, sir.
Alright, you're all over the road, man. Is there any other reason that was causing you to swerve?
No, sir. There's no badge. There's nothing wrong.
Just when you think you've seen it all, get this. This man was pulled over because of the suspicious way he was driving and other concerns. However, when the cop pulls him up, not only is he an irresponsible man, but he's also an irresponsible cop driving drunk. He pulls out his badge and shows it to the cop thinking it will save him from being arrested. However, his ploy doesn't work this time, but the cops discover a more shocking secret.
Crystal.
Not only is he guilty of DUI and endangering the lives of other road users, he's also guilty of neglecting his duty of not bringing harm to the children in the car. And then the final bombshell drops.
I was a cop. You know they're illegal to have if you're not an active or retired law enforcement officer. Yes, sir.
Same thing with your badge. You kept your badge too, that you showed me?
In reality, the so-called cop has actually been dismissed from service, but he kept his badge and other insignias probably for situations like these. Kudos to the cops who refuse to be swayed. Cops give tickets for speeding, so what happens when the one speeding is not just a cop, but a deputy sheriff at that?
Guess who I just pulled over?
Who?
Yarborough.
Really?
Yeah, the chief deputy driving a Dodge Charger, a souped-up Dodge Charger belongs to the sheriff's office.
The deputy sheriff. However, the good cop doesn't back down. Instead, he pulls the deputy sheriff over.
Yeah. Sir, here's your ID back. This is your copy of the citation. If you would sign right here, it's got a...
He not only tells the deputy sheriff his wrongs, but he also hands him a ticket. Talk about good cops. But in this case, he must also recognize how the deputy sheriff didn't try to use his power and authority to get out of the mess. Instead, he accepted the fact that he had been out of line. Good cops are underrated.
Yeah.
Go back inside. Go back in the house. Go back in the house. Ain't nobody talking to you.
It takes a good cop to stand up to a bad cop. It takes a brave cop to stand up to a bad cop even when it might implicate her. This cop arrested a man and kept on rough-handling him. However, when the man's son asks for a badge number or a card to identify them later on, he tells him this.
Can I get a card from you?
I don't have one now. We don't have one. They don't give us cards.
Okay.
Clearly, the terrible cop and the others are trying to cover up for themselves in case they get into trouble later on. But the female cop decides to do this instead.
They don't give us cards.
Okay, what's your badge number?
1059.
Let me see if I can get my phone.
Hold on, we have cards.
She ends up giving the boy the card, showing that there are still good cops out there. These stories exemplify the importance of integrity within law enforcement and the courage displayed by good cops who uphold the law regardless of rank or affiliation. By holding their fellow officers accountable, they demonstrate a commitment to justice and restoring public trust in the police force.